Number 8. The Concorde's last flight. For 20 years, the Concorde was the ultimate luxury airline for those with deep pockets. Touted as the greatest, fastest, and most remarkable aircraft ever made, the sleek jet could fly at twice the speed of sound in a blending of futuristic technology, innovation, and design. But not even its flashy undercarriage lights, in-flight treatment fit for royalty, and thunderous landings that provided a sonic boom were enough to prevent a disaster. In July 2000, an Air France Concorde suffered a devastating tragedy when it caught fire during takeoff in Paris. After running over a tiny metal strip on the runway, the plane's tire tore and the fragments crashed into the jet's fuel tank, igniting it. Out of control, the plane crashed into an airport hotel, killing all 109 people on board and 4 others on the ground. But could the jet's modern design have played a part in the disaster? Lawyers for some of the family members of those killed in the incident believe French officials did not monitor the safety of the plane as well as they should have. Even though the metal part that tore the Air France plane came from a different jet, lawyers say the Concorde's fuel tanks weren't strong enough to protect them from the flying debris. Multiple reports of tires and wheel ruptures and holes piercing the fuel tanks of multiple jets in the Concorde fleet over the years were cited in the lawsuit. The accident was a tragedy, but it came shockingly close to being much worse. French President Jacques Chirac was on board an Air France flight that was narrowly missed by the Concorde as it crashed. After the incident, both British Airways and Air France, who collaborated to create the Concorde, grounded all flights for a full investigation. But the shutdown didn't last long. Only a few days later, flights began again until the Civil Aviation Authority seized all operations at the Concorde to conduct a full safety review. Some passengers on a flight from New York were even sent back to the terminal just before takeoff when the fleet was grounded. Number 7. Saba. Picture this. You're booked on a vacation to the Caribbean. Your bathing suit and sunscreen are packed into your carry-on, and you're gazing out the airplane window, ready to land at your island destination. That's when you see it. A 1,300-foot-long airport runway built on the only flat piece of land in the Antilles. With only 900 feet of usable space, the runway isn't much longer than the airplane you're riding in. If that wasn't enough to make you cringe, there are sheer drops into the sea at either end, making it the shortest commercial runway in the world and the only place to land. The island is located just 15 minutes from St. Martin, a popular destination for those looking to get away from the daily grind. The tide pool flats and mountainous scenery make it a hub of activity if you can just get over the treacherous landing at the airport. But don't think you'll be heading there in some lavish luxury airliner with champagne and caviar. Only a special type of airplane can go there, one known as an STOL or short takeoff and landing utility aircraft that is used for landing strips that are very short when the plane needs to come to a stop quickly. Have you ever traveled to Saba Island and experienced this white-knuckle landing? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. It only takes about 15 minutes to fly there from St. Martin, with its lush green mountains, sprawling golden beaches, and gorgeous turquoise waters, creating a scenic departure. But that doesn't make the journey any less terrifying once you get ready to land. Pilots even joke about how close their wings come to the stunning mountain slides on their final approach, and knowing that sometimes the planes experience engine failure from having to stop so quickly on the downward sloping runway, you might want to enjoy a little something from the airport minibar before you hop on a flight to the remote island. Number 6. Lee, India. If you want to talk breathtaking views, hop on a flight to Lee, India. It's known as one of the most scenic flight paths in the world, thanks to its position between the Himalayan mountains. And it's that location that makes landing there such a chore. Biting harsh winds lash the terrain, which means flights can only take off during a narrow window in the morning hours. Pilots who operate in and out of the airport have to undergo strict training to learn how to fly in the unsafe conditions there. They're put through grueling exercises where they fly with only one of the plane's 2 engines operational as a way to get them used to engine failure, which often happens due to the harsh conditions. The airport is situated in the Indian site of Ladakh at the highest altitude in the world at a height of 3,256 meters above sea level. And it hasn't always been smooth flying there. A few years ago, before one flight could take off from the airport on its way to Delhi, a dog ran into the runway, forcing the plane to abort its flight. Days earlier, another flight at the airport had engine trouble and had to be grounded by civil aviators. Number 5. Scorpion on board. Wonder why customs officials scan your carry-on luggage so closely? Maybe they're taking a cue from a terrifying incident that happened on an Alaska Airlines flight where an unwanted stowaway made the flight a living hell for passengers. Everyone had settled into their seats as the plane prepared to take off from Los Angeles to Portland. As the airplane was taxiing to the runway, something happened that caught everyone completely off guard. When passengers started calling for help, the plane's flight attendants scrambled to see what had happened. They found a group of passengers around a woman in distress who had suffered an unexpected injury. A scorpion that had hitched a ride on the plane's previous flight from Mexico had stung her. Even after suffering a sting on her arm, the passenger didn't complain much. In fact, everyone was shocked at how calm she was. As it turns out, the scorpion is believed to have hitched a ride in the carry-on luggage of a passenger from the previous flight. Luckily, one of the flight attendants was able to kill the scorpion without getting injured, and the plane continued on its way. For those on board, one can only imagine it was a nervous flight when the plane took off half an hour after the incident. Even with news that the entire airline would have an exterminator inspect the plane when it landed, you can bet the cabin crew were busy with drink orders to calm the nerves of the passengers. Number 4. Cristiano Ronaldo International Airport. The Cristiano Ronaldo International Airport might be the gateway to the stunning sunny hotspot of Madeira, Portugal, but it's also one of the most dangerous airports to land at. The archipelago, or group of islands in the North Atlantic Ocean, boasts stunning cliffs and idyllic beaches, with Madeira the most populous and densely populated of the group. The location of the island, though, could be the very thing that makes it so treacherous to land at. Harsh winds lash the site, situated 400 kilometers north of the Canary Islands and 520 kilometers west of Morocco. Over 3 million passengers a year travel to the remote location. They have to endure a harrowing journey that sees them travel through multiple different climate systems that create dangerous crosswinds. Pilots who fly into the location have to endure extra training, which often comes in handy, as weather at the mountainous location can be unpredictable at best. They've also become accustomed to diverting their planes to the nearby Canary Islands when things get too rough. Since it opened in 1964, there have been a few notable accidents. In 1977, a Boeing 727 overshot the runway and crashed into a nearby beach, killing 131 of the 164 occupants. After the incident, airport officials extended the runway in hopes of preventing future accidents. But that's another concern for anyone flying there, because the island is so small, the runway needed a concrete extension platform that juts out into the Atlantic Ocean. This, along with the special training needed to deal with known dangers during approaches, landing, or takeoff, have earned the airport the distinction as the History Channel's 9th most dangerous airport in the world and the 3rd most dangerous in Europe. Number 3. Hot landing. Air traffic controllers were in for a devastating first-hand look at a dramatic landing when a Russian plane burst into flames upon returning to the airport for supposed technical reasons. Just after takeoff, the jet, with 73 passengers and 5 crew members, experienced some sort of malfunction. Desperate to save everyone, the pilot tried to get in touch with air traffic controllers, but the connection was lost. After sending several distress signals and receiving no response, the pilot had to make a quick decision if he was going to save everyone. With 2 full tanks of fuel, it was a risky move. He had no other choice but to circle the airport and touch down for a very bumpy landing, which resulted in the plane bursting into flames. But could there be some other reason for the shocking accident? Some say the plane was struck by lightning and it caught on fire mid-air, and that's why it had to return. Black smoke billowed from the burning plane as it came to a stop on the tarmac. During the incident, a flight attendant was killed and 2 children also died. Luckily, after deploying the emergency slides, passengers were able to escape the burning wreckage, and 37 passengers and crew survived the ordeal, a miracle to those who witnessed the event. After the fire crews were able to extinguish the blaze, the only thing left was the burned-out shell of the plane. Stunned survivors shared that the crew did everything they could to save everyone on board. They also confirmed that just after takeoff, the plane was indeed struck by lightning, which may be what caused the pilot to lose contact with the radio tower. Footage of the incident quickly started to circulate after passengers on another plane waiting to take off witnessed the incident and started filming. Number 2. Lukla Airport, Nepal. If you thought trying to climb Mount Everest was dangerous, you'd have to get there first, and from the sound of it, that's no easy feat. At 9,383 feet above sea level, Lukla Airport is the only way into the region, unless you want to hike in by foot through the rocky, snowy terrain and risk injury before you even get there. The tiny settlement sees multiple flights a day, and even though the journey from Kathmandu to Lukla is only 30 minutes, you'll feel like you're traveling to a totally different world. The problem is the high altitude of the location. Low air pressure offers challenges and dangers that you won't encounter at other locations. The travelers have no choice if they want to make the trek to the top of Earth's highest mountain above sea level. Steep mountains surround the airport on all sides, and the runway seems like it was simply placed there on a small shelf. With a wall at one end and a steep drop into the valley below at the other, you'll either hold your breath or close your eyes when you make this approach. With lower air density than at sea level, airplanes struggle to generate enough power to fly. The reduced air resistance also makes it harder for pilots to slow their planes down, so longer runways are a plus. Unfortunately, the one at Lukla is only 1,729 feet long, incredibly short when compared to most other runways at international airports that are usually 10,000 feet long. That means the runway had to be constructed with an uphill gradient to help the plane stop easier. Once aircraft make their approach, there's no way to turn back because of the tight squeeze between the surrounding mountains. This also means that only fixed-wing propeller planes and helicopters are allowed to land there. Another factor that makes Lukla so dangerous is the unpredictable weather. Number 1. Barra Airport, Scotland. If you thought jagged mountains, blinding snowstorms, and high winds were dangerous for potential pilots, take a look at Barra Airport in Scotland's Outer Hebrides. Located in the North Atlantic with less than 1,200 inhabitants, Barra is a stunning island with a scenic flight overlooking the lush landscape from Glasgow along the River Clyde, over Loch Awe, the Isle of Mull, and across the sea. Once you start your approach, though, you might be in for a big surprise. If you happen to look out the window over the choppy seas and across the dark hills ahead, you might start to panic when you realize the runway you're supposed to land on has mysteriously disappeared. Just 8 miles long and 5 miles wide, Barra is a tiny village with a butcher, post office, cafe, and a few houses near the port where the ferry bypasses the grassy sand dunes to come to rest in the bay. With no concrete or tarmac here to land on, Barra is the only airport in the world where flights land on a beach. Arrivals are timed according to the tide, so if you happen to be making your approach when the tide is in, you might not have a place to land. If the weather is really bad, pilots will make a few attempts to land, but more often than not, they end up having to divert back to Glasgow to try landing another day. And don't think that just because you landed safely, you'll make it out as easily. Thanks for watching. Which one of these flights did you think was the craziest? Let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like these. See you next time. Bye!